In most of the country, the gray wolf is back on the endangered species list. In February, a judge ruled that federal officials acted improperly when they took the animals off the list 2 years ago. But the decision does not affect the states that border Yellowstone National Park, including Montana, where changes to hunting rules last year gave wolf hunters access to land on the park boundary. During last winter's hunting season, 25 of the park's 114 wolves were killed when they wandered outside the park. Now the topic is dividing the local community, including some biologists and tourism entrepreneurs who want to see the wolves protected, and local ranchers who say the wolves pose a major threat to their way of life. In the foothills of the northern Rockies,
as we're looking off to the south, that's Yellowstone Park.
We hunt.
Father and son run a 6th-generation cattle ranch.
We've always had cattle. My dad had cattle here way before my time.
A tough business as profits shrink and real estate soars.
Everything's always fighting against you, whether that's sickness in the cattle, predators, noxious weeds.
So they run a side hustle, guiding elk and deer hunts, these days with fewer trophy bull elk to track.
Could you sustain your cattle ranch if you didn't have the hunting business as well?
No, we couldn't. And a lot of ranchers are finding that recreation is becoming another avenue to sustain the family farm.
Both businesses compete with wolves they say prey on their game and livestock.
So I came up one morning and there was a wolf that just killed a calf. And so I opened the window and shot the wolf right from the tractor.
Wolves have been absent here for a century until they were relocated to Yellowstone from Canada 27 years ago.
It was a disaster for us.
At least one pack left the park and moved in nearby.
They were killing between $5,000 and $10,000 worth of calves a year. And so, you know, with the extra stress, our cows weren't getting bred again for the next calf crop.
But for the Park Service, their return has rebalanced an ecosystem that had been thrown off by an overabundance of elk.
And you can see out here, this is prime elk range.
Last summer, we spoke to biologist Doug Smith, who led that effort.
And before the predators were returned to Yellowstone, all of this was heavily grazed. Those trees out there, some of them were eaten down by the elk because we didn't have wolves, cougars, and bears at the numbers they should be. So this changed how this whole plateau functioned.
Before the settlers arrived, as many as 500,000 roamed the West. By the middle of the 20th century, they were wiped out. Now, thanks to the Endangered Species Act, the wolves are making a comeback.
And now west of the Mississippi River, we probably have 3,000 across 7 states. And that's not that many. And where they exist makes those places unique. It's saving the ecosystem, but it's also an economic driver.
The 100 wolves that have settled inside the national park became a tourist draw no one had expected, bringing in at least $35 million to the local economy every year.
You live in Finland.
Yeah,
And you came all the way to Montana.
absolutely. It's unique. It's the only place in the planet we can see the wolves like that in the nature, interacting with the buffaloes, with the wildlife.
Capitalizing on the wolf sensation, Nathan Varley started Wolf Trackers almost 20 years ago.
I mean, you've invested in vans, scopes. You have people you employ.
Absolutely. This has become our livelihood. We get to meet very interesting people from all over the country, all over the world. I mean, we love what we do, but we need the wolves to do that.
Jeopardizing that, Montana's decision to scrap the buffer zone on land outside Yellowstone's northern border. Now, as many as 10 can be shot by a single hunter.
The harvest of wolves was disproportionately focused on those wolves that live in and around Yellowstone National Park.
19 of Yellowstone's 114 wolves were killed by the park boundary in Montana last season. Pat Byworth with Montana's Fish and Wildlife Commission says the new hunting policy has been divisive.
Literally, the community is severing over wolves. That's not a good policy for any agency to create division and tear apart a community.
Are you concerned this could wipe out everything you've worked for?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, Yellowstone's the most famous wolf population in the world. Our study is one of the most recognized scientific studies on wolves. This is a handful of wolves that could change pack dynamics and really affect visitor enjoyment.
The social situation is complex, with so many competing economic interests.
We're the endangered species. And when we're gone, these beautiful ranches, as you're about to see, are going to be subdivided. And there ain't going to be habitat for wolves or elk or any of the wildlife. And that's why we have to have a balance.
The stakes are high for everyone as another hunting season approaches.
Listen to the people who rely on those wolves either for business or for recreation, or stock growers who protect their livestock from predators like wolves. So we have to balance all these different interests and still maintain wolves on the land.
And it's not just a problem in the Northwest. You're seeing this in places like Wisconsin and Michigan, but nowhere else in this country do you have the competing economic interests that you have in Yellowstone, or quite frankly, the opinions about wolves. I'd never seen anything like it. There's a true hatred for this animal in a way that is instilled in the history, the folklore, but it means something because they have had a devastating impact.
And a love for it too.
Yeah.
But it's tough, and it's interesting to hear Zane talk about himself as an endangered species.
Right.
It's so challenging to balance all these interests.
It is, but worth it, right?
Yeah.
Worth it.